All right, so let's see. Oh, everything is just very slow. Um, yeah, the stupid um, application just wouldn't work well. All right. All right. So unfortunately, no, that did not link as it's supposed to. Uh, there we go. Hopefully, the microphone will pick up properly and I'll sound okay. I put links to everything all over the place. Probably should have tested this out, huh? In advance. I will have the chat open so I can see it, hopefully. Uh, sorry. This I was really like I had tested out some of the live streaming, some of the software on my laptop earlier, and it worked okay. But apparently not properly for any period of time, which is just annoying. If anyone is in chat, let me know how you can if you can hear me okay. My Bluetooth headphones should sound all right. Not great, not like my good mic, but and is this also frozen? Got to be kidding me. Shut that. All right, so okay, so I'm live. I'm waving my hand. It's just not showing up on my laptop, which is fantastic. Um, I'm posting links on Facebook and everywhere else. And hopefully, let's see, I need to. Mostly I just wanted it on the laptop so that I could monitor the chat a little more easily. But there's like a huge amount of lag between what's here and what's on my laptop. So I don't know how useful that's going to be. But I will be monitoring the chat through the laptop. And we will see how that goes. All right, I just want to get a link onto Erasables. And we're going to have some background noise because I've got the windows open. Mailman just dropped off the mail, so that's great. That's a bonus. We are getting mail here. Let's see if I can even find my post on Erasable. Maybe we'll get a classic, one of my neighbors driving by on their Harley. For anyone who's been listening to RSVP for a few, for any period of time, my neighbor, at least one of my neighbors has a Harley, and it's a very, very loud Harley. Anyway, I can't find the post on Erasables, so I'm just going to close that window. And all right. So I'm going to get started with this little hack. So to accomplish this hack, you're going to need a few things. First thing, obviously, you need some Apsara or Apsara. I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce it. Inexpensive, the Long Point pencil sharpeners. They are, this was like $5.30 on Amazon. It arrived in a couple of days, so super, super inexpensive. And they're not the most well made, but when you first get them, they make a point like that. Let's see if I can get that on camera. They make a point like that, which is not bad. It's a long point with a really, really long collar. But you can make this better, and it will end up with points that look like the bottom two. So incredibly long points that just write forever. And you can put a stop in there so that you can stop it from making a little needle point. So I'm going to show you how to do that. It's really weird seeing the video also playing in the background, like later, slightly later. To do this, you're going to need a few things. The long point pencil sharpeners, some post-it notes, doesn't really matter what size. Obviously a screwdriver because we're going to be taking the blade out. Pencils to practice with and see what the points look like. To make the stop, index cards and a glue stick, but you can also make the stopper out of the post-it notes. It's a little fiddly to do that. I'll show you what that looks like. You could also alternatively do this with masking tape. You'll need some Q-tips or some towel to clean out some of the machine oils that are in these little pencil sharpeners. You can also, instead of using scissors, you need scissors, you could use a craft knife to do this. And some scrap paper. This is a shiny sticker backing that I'm going to use to make sure things don't stick. Although now I have a new clean craft cutter thing. Let's see, what did I do with the previously made versions of these? So there are several different versions of these sharpeners out there. There's this newer version, which will, I'm not going to do a black one because that's going to be hard to see on camera. I'll do yellow. The newer version doesn't have a built-in stop. The older version, let me get this open. The older version This one no longer has the stop in it because I removed it because this one's already hacked. So I'm not sure you're actually going to be able to see that. Turn the light a little bit. So there used to be, down here in the end, there was a little plastic stopper. And to get the long point to work, you have to cut that if you have the older version. If you have the newer version, it doesn't have that little plastic stop. You don't have to cut half of it away to get your long point. The newer version is much easier to hack. And we're going to go through that. So one of the things that you will notice is that the more times you unscrew and screw the little screw in, the more likely you are to strip it out. And this one is getting there because I've used this one as an example. But you can just put a little drop of super glue down in the bottom of that. So this is an old one. They are dated. Apsara is really great. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Let's see. This one's from 2016. And the new ones are from 2019. So you should be able to see that. So what we're going to accomplish here is we are going to remove the blade. We're going to make a little stack of Post-it note. I like Post-it notes because if I say make a stack of 5, then your Post-it notes, if you're using, mine are actually Post-it brand, if you're using Post-it brand, are going to be the same size as mine. So you're more likely to be able to repeat my success with this hack if I am saying use Post-it brand Post-it notes. So what we're going to do, once you get the blade out, you're going to make a little stack of 5 pieces of Post-it note there, and then we're going to make a stopper out of cardstock and glue stick to get the pencil lead to stop. So it makes a really nice point, a surprisingly nice point. It does have a giant collar. That is the one downside, I think, to the Apsara Long Point Sharpener, is that it makes a giant collar. So there's that issue. So I'm going to open up a new one. So one of the things you will notice about these little sharpeners is that the blade is absolutely covered in machine oil. And that's not really a big deal, with the exception that your Post-it notes won't stick to it. So this is a magnet that just helps me remove the screw without losing it. So the machine oils, I'm not sure you can see how oily that actually is, but there's a ton of oil in there, which is fine for the blade, but it's not great for your Post-it notes to stick to. So I just get in there, clean that out. Any questions so far? So that's where we start. We've gotten everything taken apart. So now we're going to take some Post-it notes. We're going to do some measurement. We're only going to use the sticky end. So you can actually do this with the flags as well, the Post-it flags. I happen to have a cube with these. I use them for everything. So you want to make a couple of strips of Post-it note that are 3 millimeters wide. I'm just going to do so I have previously measured this distance. It's about 3 millimeters from the side here to the edge of this, and you really want to try and match that up the best you can. It just works better. So I am going to use a craft knife. Because this is a nice clean cutting mat. And I think I have, yeah. So then we're going to do a piece that is a 1/2 centimeter, so 5 millimeters wide. So one post-it note is enough to do 2. So yeah, I've got more than enough stick. So you have more than enough here to do 2 of these sharpeners. So then you're going to cut, you need 2 of the wider pieces per sharpener. So 1, 2, 1, 2, that's waste. So these 2 pieces are going to form the top and the bottom of our paper wedge that we're building. And then we're going to cut for each stack these into 1/2 a centimeter or 5 millimeters. So you're going to make a bunch of marks for basically a 1/2 centimeter. So I will pry that up, move that to the side. Actually, I'm just going to cut these now. And I know that it's probably hard to see this because they're tiny. I mean, I'm working with, and then here's a little piece of scrap. Which of course sticks to everything because I'm on camera. If I were just doing this on my own, I'd be having no problems. People are watching, so I'm having issues. So there are our base pieces, and then we're going to cut these little 5 millimeter rectangles, and they don't need to be perfect. You know, mine are all crooked. That's fine. So, and then these up here are a little longer. So now comes the fidgety, fussy part. You're going to take and you're going to start stacking these little pieces on top of one another. So I just took one of these longer pieces, stacked it on top of one of my 5 millimeter pieces. Now I'm going to take a 5 millimeter by, I don't remember how wide these were, 3 millimeters, and stack on top. So it varies how many of these you're going to want to do depending on like how much of a, I don't know, concave point you really want. So I'm going to put one more piece on there. And I'm not sure you're going to be able to see. Basically, it's a fiddly little stack of post-it note bits and bobs. And then you take the other piece and you layer it over the top of that whole thing. You almost need a macro lens to see this stuff. So there we've made a tiny little wedge of post-it note. Now, you're probably thinking that's not enough to make a difference, but I promise you it does. Pencil sharpeners deal in minute amounts. So now that I've got the stack, I'm going to trim like a millimeter off of it. And then I'm going to put the fat end. I'm just going to lay that in. Down in the point end. I'm going to use a screwdriver to tuck it in and make sure it's all stuck down. So there we have that. Now we have to figure out, and I'll show you actually, why don't I do that? I'm going to show you the point that this makes. Just as is. So when you're putting it back together, you line the end of the blade up with that end. And I'm not sure you can see, but there's like a subtle little flex in that blade. It's just maybe like half, not even half a millimeter, maybe less than that. And I'm just going to use some pen and gear pencils, which are a favorite of mine. Oh, that one's off center. Let me see if I can find a more centered core so it looks good. So this will let you see the kind of nub that it creates. And you can see it's taking off like a giant amount of wood. So there. And now you'll be able to see, hopefully, that there is a tiny little lump of graphite at the end. So what we want to create now is basically a point stop, like you would find in a classroom-friendly pencil sharpener or other it's like an automatic stop. So I'm just gonna, it's hard to see, but down in the end of the sharpener, down here, there's a gap between the blade and the where the stop is for the sharpener. So I'm going to take the kind of guesstimate, and because I've done a bunch of these at this point, like you can see, I used Post-it notes down in the end of this one, but it takes quite a large stack of Post-it notes, and some of them have a giant, like there's like a 2 millimeter gap between the blade and the end of the sharpener. So it takes a lot of Post-it notes to do it. And so you can do, kind of figure out if you want to use Post-it notes, just take a stack of them and you can kind of slide them in and see if they're going to stop it up. But it can take like 10 Post-it notes to fill that gap. So yeah, like the gap on this one is already going to take up 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 Post-it notes. So you can do Post-it notes, or you can glue together a stack of index cards, and it'll probably, like with these index cards, because these are super thick, maybe only take 2 or 3 little chunks. So someone posted a hack years ago somewhere, doing something similar, with the Coom Long Point Sharpener. So I don't know. I just started doing it with the Apsara. So I can't really take credit for this, but what I saw, the instructions that I saw for doing this original hack was originally not to create a concave point on this, but to stop a needle point. So like, cause you know how sometimes the long point sharpeners, you get like this needly point. And this helps stop that because it flares it out a little bit. So when we put the stop in there, it's going to stop that little lump, and it's going to create a nice flat end so you don't get a needle point. So I'm going to want like a 4mm wide piece of this. And again, I'm not being like super precise or making these things really like super straight. It doesn't, none of this has to be super straight. So the only thing that we have to do at this point is make sure that the blade is going to catch this little chunk here. And we're going to have to like take the blade out and slide it in. So I think if I cut this just in half, it'll be fine. There we go. So I got a nice little chunk. Post-it notes there. I'm gonna unscrew this again. Yeah. So I have, this is one of, this is a diabetes test strip container, and I just dropped it. So the sharpener that's in there, where the hell did it go? There it is. The sharpener that's in there is the first one that I did. And you can see that I don't have a stop in this one. This is a 2016-ish, but this one is years old, and I recently glued it in to here to make a portable sharpener. So yeah, that one's years old. It's also not a sharpener that I use all the time. But the hack will last as long as the blade, easily. So you wear the blade out on one of these before you wear the hack out. So I'm just going to unscrew this. Get the blade and everything out of there. So now I've got graphite dust and stuff in there. So I'm just going to grab my Q-tip again and clean it out. And you can see, well, maybe you can't, but I can, that the Post-it notes that are in there that touch the blade are covered in machine oil. So wherever you've got graphite dust, the Post-it notes are not going to stick to particularly well. So the little Post-it notes are tucked in there. I'm going to use my, actually I could go even thinner, I think. I could have gone shorter. And I am using my screwdriver to push this in and really force it into place. And again, it's not sticking all that great because of the graphite and oil in there. So you want to get it in there pretty tight. And then you're going to slide the blade in again from the opposite end, because the blade's going to help hold those Post-it notes in place. See if I can actually get the screw in there. You know, I've done like, at this point, a half dozen of these without a single issue. But the minute I go to like stream, here's how you do this hack, I start dropping stuff. Alright, so I've got it kind of set in there. I'm going to push these back into place. And And you really do with these plastic sharpeners. You got to be careful about stripping out where the screw goes in. If you strip those threads, I mean, it's not toast totally, but it's not great. So then I use the screwdriver to take that stack of Post-it notes and tuck them in, and that gives you a little tension to keep things in place a little better. And I'm going to grab another pencil, nice centered one, and we'll sharpen this one from the top, and you can see the difference. One of the things that I really like about these sharpeners is even though they are super inexpensive, the blades are great. I mean, it just sharpens up the pencil. So now that I've got that auto stop, it stops sharpening once you hit that stack. I mean, you can really shove it in there, but so let's compare these 2 points. This one has a nice flat end. Can you see that okay? So yeah, the little lump that's here that will break off the minute you touch it to paper is gone on this one. There's just a hint of it being concave, concave. It's not particularly deep concave point, but this is nice and long now. I'm trying to think if I've got anything sharpened by. So if you're wondering what it looks like if you do it on like an expensive pencil, here's a Blackwing 73 sharpened on one of these. I mean, it just makes a great long point. And, you know, it's one of my favorite points. It just like you can write and write and write and write with it. So you compare it to, here's the Blackwing Long Point Sharpener, which I have a bloviating review coming up about it. And so here's a point on that compared with the Apsara point, and I find that the Apsara point is on par with the Blackwing point. If anything, the Apsara point lasts longer, significantly longer, and it doesn't break. I mean, it makes the great thing about this sharpener is that it makes a really durable point. And I would say the same thing with the Blackwing sharpener, is that it's a durable point, but this one, the Apsara, especially once you've done the hack, lasts for so long. And I'm seeing data is suggesting that washing it in warm water with dish soap would get the gunk clean. It would, but I think that leaving the machine oils on the blade is helpful for the longevity of the blade, although I think those are going to come off at a certain point with certain amount of sharpening. But yeah, I mean, it just, this point is just really, really nice. This is, I don't remember what point that is. Like I had a bunch of pencils that I sharpened up with different things so that I could show them in the video. And then they've just sort of disappeared. So, yeah, so here's the expensive pencil and cheap pencils, and it sharpens anything pretty easily and well. So I'm going to go through it once more and show you on another sharpener how easy this is to do. I mean, I've got a box of 20 of them, so I'm going to do another one. Let's see, the red one, that one has a really thick gap. So same thing. I'm going to just remove the blade, set it aside. Clean the bed out. else have any questions or any thoughts? So I'm going to take one of these and I'm going to stack Of course, sticking this to my finger is not the world's greatest idea I've ever had. So then I'm going to do another one. So there's that. I'm going to square it up a little bit. Again, nothing with this process is particularly perfect. I'm going to put another long stack on there, or long piece. I'm going to take that whole stack. I'm going to trim it down. So there. We've got another tiny little paper wedge. And let's see. I'm going to take that. I'm going to slide it right in there. Fat end towards the end of the point. Use my little narrow screwdriver to tuck that in. And I think I'm going to need I'm going to stack 20 pieces because this one is significantly, had a much wider gap than the yellow. I'll start with that. See if I can get these aligned. There's such tiny fiddly pieces of Post-it note. It's hard to manage them because they're so tiny. So there we go. There's the stack in there. Now I might need less than that stack. No, it looks like it's about perfect. Alright, so as you can see, it's lined up, and now I'm just going to crank that screw down. And I'm going to make sure that the paper, the Post-it notes, you actually want the Post-it notes that are acting as your point stop really snug when you put that blade in. So there. That it's really a quickly done hack. It's very easy to do. I'm going to sharpen up. I had quite a few of these were actually decently centered. Alright, so again, start to finish. Let's see. I'm just hitting the core. And it sort of ejects the shavings when you are when you hit that stop. So I actually like the point that I get from the sharpeners that have the little wider gap, because the core is long, but it has a nice blunt non-needle tip that just works really well. So these are it's just a great point. It just works really well. Let me see if I have a more expensive, nice pencil to sharpen up and show you. See, I know I have like Black Wing or something that I can sharpen up. Here's a good one. Here's a Blackwing Natural. I'm going to take that same sharpener and go start to finish. Hitting the core now. I will say the Blackwing Natural does smell a lot better. All right. So, I think that's the first time I've gotten a Blackwing that's not perfectly centered. So, check that out. Look at that super lengthy point. And it's such an easy hack to do. So the other thing that I want to show you is if you have a pencil sharpener that creates a needle point, I'm just going to dump my shavings out of my fishbowl into my coffee tin. So let's say you have a sharpener like, say, the Blackwing Long Point, and it is creating needle points for you. So I'm going to actually take this apart, and I'm going to show you how I fixed mine. And yes, it is a $20 sharpener, so I don't feel like I should be doing a hack on a $20 sharpener, which is part of my bloviating review. So in here I've got 2 pieces of Post-it note that I just lined up with the end. Actually, let me show you the point that this makes without those in there. It might not do it because the blade has probably been deformed too. It might. But we'll see. We'll see what'll happen. Another brand new pen and gear. The blade in here is new. So the Blackwing Long Point Sharpener, for anyone who's wondering, you can get blades from Blackwing, or you can buy the M&R blades that also work for the Coombe Masterpiece. So alright, we're almost there. So I'm not sure you're actually going to be able to see it because it produces what is a very blunt point, or not blunt, a needle point. It's already broken off a couple of times as I was sharpening it. So it takes the point from being like that, and actually I think that the blade is a little deformed. Oh yeah, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. So when you sharpen your blade completely, you get that needle point. What this hack will do for this sharpener is will stop it from creating that needle point in the first place. So to hold the one of the things I do like about this is instead of having it threaded into the soft aluminum, the little bolt threads into a nut. So that's actually super nice. So you take the little stack of 2 Post-it notes, and I found that 2 Post-it notes work best for this, and it's about, I think, 3 millimeters wide in there. 4 millimeters wide down at the end, so 4 millimeters wide by 7. So 2 4 by 7 millimeter pieces of Post-it note down in there works to create an effective wedge to stop this from making needle points. Now, yes, it should not be necessary to hack this sharpener. It is a $20 sharpener. It should not require anything for it to work well, but it does. So this, we'll go with a relatively centered version of the pen and gear. Any questions about this so far? This actually works with any pencil sharpener that creates those little needle points that break off. I did attempt it with the Pollux, but found that I broke a Pollux blade, and those are way too expensive to do that with. Um, so I can sharpen and sharpen and sharpen at this point, and it'll still create a little bit of a needle point, but not nearly as bad as it originally was. So it's a little fatter, a little more blunt, a little less likely to break. So yeah, so that's my hack for the long point sharpener. Also, if you are someone who finds that you are breaking your tips off all the time, if you align the hole, or at least for me, with the Blackwing logo, I don't know what it is about just lining it up, and then I always hold the Blackwing logo up and the point up so that when I sharpen, I seem to be less likely to break the tip off than previously. So, questions, comments, thoughts? No? Well, I hope, look at that, my brand new, what a mess, my brand new cutting mat, and I managed to get, this is my life, graphite everywhere. And it is a messy process, especially if you're doing, if you're trying to stop something from having a needle point. It is going to be messy because you're going to be removing the blade, putting the blade back, removing the blade, putting the blade back, um, over and over and over again, just to try and get it to work. So I'm going to do another one while I sit here because it takes, no time. So if anyone has any questions, I am happy to answer them. So for those of you who have stuck through the whole stream, Dade and I are recording an episode of RSVP tomorrow. And I don't know, we're going to talk about some stuff. We're going to talk about going back to school, and who knows what we're going to catch up. We're going to catch up. That's what we're going to do. And I want to take a moment to thank everyone who has been supporting me via Ko-fi or Ko-fi. I always want to call it Ko-fi for some reason. Because it's been really nice to get back into doing reviews, which is something that really hadn't been able to do for a variety of reasons. But things got a little more stable at work, though they're not stable now. Um, and yeah, so it's just been nice to get that Ko-fi support, and buy some back to school stuff, do some reviews. I really appreciate it, and it's been a lot of fun doing my reviews again. So I really appreciate that, everyone who's supported me. And of course, I'm not gonna lie. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to follow the link in the show notes and throw me some coffees via Ko-fi, and I will take that money and I will put it towards more reviews, more content like this. I'm also hoping to do some more manuscripting pod episodes here soon. Um, This is the hardest part, I think, of this whole hack, is trying to get the little block of Post-it notes down in there. Alright, and then I'm gonna drop that in, slide it into place. So, yeah, it's gonna hold things in nicely. Alright, I'm not seeing any more questions, and I think most of the people who were originally here have left. Anyway, I appreciate everyone showing up, asking questions, and hopefully you find this helpful and you are able to do this hack for yourself. I'm going to sharpen up another pencil because why not? That one's pretty uncentered. That's okay. I actually like sharpening pencils. I know I'm weird. But I'm going to put, I have some little Altoid tins that I sell periodically. I've got some that I've finished up with a liner and covered in aluminum tape, little old-fashioned like real duct tape, and I'm going to put those up on not my Etsy but on my blog. I have a for sale page, so keep an eye on that, and each one of those is going to get one of these hacked long point sharpeners. Let's check that. It's just a lovely point, isn't it? It's just like, look at how long that is. That's just going to write forever and feel really nice on the page. Anyway, so thanks everyone for showing up. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this, subscribe, like, send it to people, share it. You know, all those fun things that all the YouTubers suggest you do. Please go ahead and do that. Also, don't forget to head over to my blog, comfortableshoesstudio.com, and check out my recent reviews and all of the other stuff that I do over there. Check out rsvpstationarypodcast.com. We're going to have a new episode coming soon. So thanks for watching. All of that fun stuff. Bye. Now let's see if I remember how to stop this thing. Yeah, I'm gonna stop streaming.